this is the part that's really hard for me to talk about. So as many of you know, I had my own apartment, and you can tell by where I'm at right now, this is not where I lived before, and a lot of you are probably wondering what's going on. So I had my own apartment, and I let a lot of people into my life that were not good for me. And I didn't know it at the time, and it took me a long time to see that. And I need to backpedal a little bit. So back in June of 2018, I had a friend and her husband staying with me after I had just gotten out of a really bad situation where I had a roommate who really screwed me over. And we're not going to talk about who that person was or name names or anything like that. I'm not here for drama. But they really screwed me over, and I was on my own again, but I was still in my apartment. It was my apartment, so like I didn't lose my place to live, but I lost a friend, or someone I thought was a friend, and that was really hard. But I had another friend who, she and her husband were in a really tight situation, and they needed a place to stay for a little bit. And I welcomed them into my apartment. I said, you know what? Here, I have space. And I let them in. And I'm not gonna name these people either because, you know, I still care about these people. And I don't want there to be any issues if I see these people ever again, or talk to them, because I do still care about them. But it's still a thing that happened that really impacts this channel and me as a person and kind of just my life. And I want to share that with y'all. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit. They've been staying with me for a few weeks at this point. It's about to be the last week of June. I had planned on June 28th, I was supposed to be flying out of Dallas to Los Angeles because I was supposed to be doing a week-long trip out there to get to know this guy and do a paternity test with this guy who I thought might have been my biological father. And I've talked about this briefly in the past, and so some of you may know and some of you may not know that I don't know who my biological dad is. I haven't really gone into a lot of detail with that, and if you guys are interested, I can make a whole nother separate video going into detail on that trip and what all happened and how I got into the point where I found this person and I was going to go on this trip, but that's just a whole nother story. But basically 3 days before this trip, or like 3 or 4 days, it wasn't too long before, my friend and her husband were at my apartment and they were still staying with me, and there was a lot of things happening all at once, and it was like a flash. Everything happened so fast that it's a little blurry as to exactly what happened, what caused everything. I know that her husband had been drinking, and I don't know exactly what happened, but he snapped, and it basically got to the point where he was yelling, she was yelling, and he ended up pointing a gun to my head and saying to her, "I'll shoot your friend just to prove I don't give up." And at that point, it was just I had to have them leave. We got him calmed down and they left, and that was it. But every time I would close my eyes, it was like I could see the gun pointing at me, and I couldn't sleep. I didn't want to be in my apartment, especially by myself. And so I just didn't sleep. I didn't know how to handle it. How do you handle it? And I didn't want to call the police, and I know a lot of people are going to tell me that I was stupid for doing that, or, oh, you should have called the police, oh, you should have done this, you should have had him arrested. But they'd gone through so much in their lives that I didn't want to put that on them right now. And I knew he needed to get better mentally. So, point blank, I decided to just let it go. I said I would only call the police if he came back. So they were gone. I ended up calling my best friend, who y'all know very well. You guys have met him on this channel before, Preston. I love him. But that was my best friend. And I called him and told him what happened, and I was scared. And so he said, well, hey, I'll come over and I'll come and spend a night, and that way you can get some rest, because he knew that I was about to have to leave for my trip to LA and that I needed to rest. And he just really made me feel better and just made me feel not alone. And it was in a really weird time, because at that time I really didn't have many people close to me, so that was something that just I really needed. And some things kind of happened that will be brought up in a little bit. But yeah, so I went to LA for a week. When I got back from LA, a friend of mine, because I just lost my roommates, a friend of mine and her boyfriend started staying with me, because they weren't in a good living situation either. And you're gonna start seeing a pattern here. Like, I end up letting people stay with me who were not in good living situations, and I felt bad and I wanted to help, and that's just kind of hard. Like, I want to help people that I care about, and even I end up getting screwed a lot. Like I said, we're not gonna name names. So things were fine with them, with the people who were now staying with me. Things were great. But I noticed very quickly that I was being used, that promises were being broken. Oh, we'll pay for this and we'll pay for that. Nothing. And it got to the point where basically they owed me a lot of money, and they were supposed to help me and they didn't. And then in the chaos of all of this, I was in the last month of my lease. I had to be out of my apartment by the end of August.